history, mysteries, conspiracies, and more. Right now on Thinktankden After Dark. You are listening to the Think Tank Den After Dark podcast. Good evening. Welcome back to all my fellow wanderers of the unknown, and welcome back to the Think Tank Den After Dark podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lelow Def, in the building, and I'm here to take you on another deep dive into the mysteries that keep us awake at night. Tonight we're unraveling the enigmatic threads of past life experiences, reincarnation, and the phenomena of deja vu. Not sure if any of you out there have ever experienced something like that, but I have in my life and time, and maybe we'll get into that. But I think there's maybe something to it. Who knows? But let's explore it a little bit. So, what does it mean to have lived before? Why do some people feel like they've been here before in this body or another? Could deja vu be a fleeting glimpse into another existence? And what does science have to say about it all? Well, in this episode, we'll explore some of the most, credible and fascinating cases of past life memories, some of the researchers pushing the boundaries in this field, and, dive into studies that kind of straddle the line between skepticism and wonder. But before we begin, just a quick reminder, remember to please like, subscribe, and share this out on your various platforms, depending on what platform you're joining us on. It really helps so much. And if you feel the need or you enjoy this content, please leave a tip in the tip jar. We greatly appreciate it. You definitely are valued, and the show can only be successful with listeners like you. So we appreciate it. All right, what is reincarnation? Well, at its core, it's the belief that the soul or consciousness survives physical death and is reborn in a new body. This idea has been central to many spiritual traditions for thousands of years, from Hinduism and Buddhism to certain sects of Judaism and early Christianity even. But this isn't just about religion. Reincarnation raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, memory, and self. Let's start with some basics. The ancient Vedic texts of India describe reincarnation as a part of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The goal in these traditions is often to break free from this cycle, achieving liberation or enlightenment. In modern times, reincarnation has shifted from purely spiritual beliefs to something that's piqued the interest of psychologists, scientists, and even skeptics. That's where things get fascinating, right? Now, let's dive into the heart of tonight's topic: stories of individuals who claim to remember past lives, while many of these accounts can be dismissed as imagination or coincidence. Some cases are difficult, if not impossible, to explain away or ignore. The case of James Leninger, one of the most famous cases, is that of James Leninger, an American boy who began recalling vivid memories of being a World War II fighter pilot. At just 2 years old, James described details of a pilot's life that were far beyond his years. He identified a ship, the USS Natoma Bay, and even named fellow pilots and the exact circumstances of his plane crash. Now, his parents were initially skeptical, obviously, but historical research confirmed much of James's account, including details that were obscure even to historians. Skeptics argue this could be a case of subconscious learning, but others see it as powerful evidence of reincarnation. There was also the case of Shanti Devai, the Indian girl who remembered her past life. In the 1930s, India, Shanti Devai, a young girl, began telling her parents detailed stories of her previous life in a nearby village. She remembered her past life, her name, her husband's name, and even where she had hidden money in her previous home. I hope that happens for me. I need some past life experience money to pop up, right? I think we all could use that. um, but she, when researchers investigated, they found her descriptions matched the life of a woman who had died years before. Mahatma Gandhi himself became intrigued and initiated an inquiry, which only deepened the mystery. Pretty incredible. It was also the case of the Pollock twins. This case from England involves two twin girls, uh, Gillian and Jennifer Pollock, born a year after their older siblings died tragically in a car accident. As they grew, the twins began recounting details about their deceased sisters' lives, including intimate family secrets they couldn't have known. Even stranger, they had birthmarks matching scars their older sisters had. Crazy. These cases and cases like them leave us wondering, could there be more to memory than what's stored in our brain? Is there a way that consciousness carries information from one life to another? I came across a article the other day discussing um, scientists discovering basically that plants might have some level of consciousness, and that consciousness lives or can extend and or lives outside of themselves, and that consciousness in general lives or can extend outside of the human mind as well. And in this study, I guess they had done multiple different types of experiments or whatnot, but in a nutshell, they found that when certain people, they would bring around the plants and expose those people to different types of things that would invoke different emotions, etc. They found that using very sensitive instruments, they found that there were responses basically from the plants to the people, not speaking to the plant, but just thinking. And it appeared that the plant was somehow picking up on signals from the people nearby as they were thinking. So, it's kind of crazy when you look at it now, how science is kind of starting to take some of this out there stuff and taking it more seriously, and starting to see, at least circumstantially, evidence that there may be something more to it, than meets the eye. Because, for years, and people have talked about these things, things they've experienced, things they've seen, etc. And, of course, those people were laughed at, told they're crazy, etc. But, now you have legit scientists and universities actually looking into these things, like past life experiences and, the mysteries of consciousness. And when they started looking, they're actually finding something. So I think it's pretty amazing, what a time to be alive, right? We have all these things going on in the world, the UAPs and stuff like that, and all these new space discoveries and all these myths and legends starting to basically turn more fact than fiction. It's pretty incredible, and I encourage anybody to, as always, keep an open mind. Don't shut yourself off to these things. Take the time to at least have an open mind about it. Even if you don't believe in it or think there's anything to it, there's nothing wrong with that. Stay skeptical. I don't tell anybody until you are definitely or dead set that that you believe in something. Keep an open mind about things. Always approach it that way. Stay skeptical. Nothing wrong with healthy skepticism. So when you see some of these, documentaries or some of these videos out there on YouTube and some of these fringe things that are kind of out there, don't just simply scroll away or ignore it. At least take the time to listen to it and maybe at least get information on it. Because I've found, at least in my own life, Sometimes I look at certain things a certain way just because I didn't know enough about it or I ignored it for that reason. So I always say at least look into it with an open mind. And then keeping in the spirit of an open mind, um, I wanted to go over an article that I came across by Sean Lyons. It's called The Science of Reincarnation. If you get time, go look it up. It's on virginiamagazine.org, UVAmagazine.org, sorry. But it's the Virginia Magazine, their website. But when I was doing research on this topic, I came across it, and I found it pretty intriguing. Again, it's called The Science of Reincarnation by Sean Lyons. Look it up when you get some time. But it's basically about the UVA psychiatrist Jim Tucker, who is taking a serious look into specifically children's claims of a past life. And I'll just go over certain parts of this. It says here, when Ryan Hammonds was 4 years old, he began directing imaginary movies. Shouts of action often echoed from his room. But the play became a concern for Ryan's parents when he began waking up in the middle of the night, screaming and clutching his chest. And he would say that he dreamed that his heart exploded. Even to say that he was in Hollywood when it happened. Now, his mother, Cindy, asked his doctor about the episodes. Night terrors is what the doctors called them. They said he'd outgrow them. Then one night, as she was putting him to bed, Ryan, grabbed her hand and said, Mom, I think I used to be someone else. He said he remembered living in a big white house with a swimming pool, and that it was in Hollywood, which was many miles from where he lived, which he lived in Oklahoma. He said he had 3 sons even, but he couldn't remember their names. And he would cry about it. He was, emotionally invested into it. And this is just a young boy. Think about that. Just 4 years old. The mother wrote that she didn't know what to do. It was more shocking than anything to her. But he was very insistent about it. And after that night, he kept talking about it. And he would often get upset about it. So the mother started doing some research, using the internet and looking into reincarnation and things of that nature. Hit the library up, looking in the books and things of that nature. Thinking that she would find something, or something that might something he might recognize. But and I guess she did this for months and wouldn't tell anybody about it. She kind of kept it. It was kind of like a family secret, so to speak. But one day, Ryan and Cindy were looking through one of the Hollywood books, and Ryan stopped at a black and white still taken from the 1930s movie Night After Night. 2 men in the center of the picture were confronting one another. 4 other men surrounded them. Cindy didn't recognize any of the faces, but Ryan pointed to one of the men in the middle, and he said, "Hey, Mom, that's George. We did a picture together." His finger then shot over to a man on the right wearing an overcoat and a scowl. "That guy's me. I found me," he said. Now, Ryan's claims, while rare, are not unique, you know, according to this article, among more than 2,500 case files um, sitting in the offices of psychiatrist Jim Tucker. And Jim Tucker, he's a professor at the UVA Medical Center Division of Perceptual Studies. And he's taken a serious look at this, and documenting everything. And for nearly, I guess, like 15 years or so, Tucker has been investigating claims made by children. He said usually between the ages of 2 and 6, who say they've had past lives. The children are sometimes able to provide enough detail about these lives that their stories can be traced back to an actual person, rarely famous and often entirely unknown to the family, who died years before. And there's a little chart here that he put together, called Reincarnation, by the numbers. It says Tucker's research has yielded interesting patterns within the cases of children claiming memories of a past life. The median age at the time of the previous person's death is about 28 years old. And most children claiming memories of a past life are between the ages of 2 and 6. 60% of the children who claim past life memories are male. Roughly 70% of the children claim they died a violent or unnatural death. In those cases, just over 70% of the deceased individuals were male, the same ratio as in the general population. 90% of the children say they were the same sex in a previous life as they are now. And the median time between claimed death and birth is about 16 months. 20% of the children claim memories of the time between death and rebirth. So again, I just find that absolutely fascinating, and I've had friends with young children over the years, and different races, nationalities, living in different places, where we've had conversations about it, where they would ask, me, just, us hanging out or something, and saying, "Hey, my my daughter, said she used to be a teacher, and I always thought it was funny because every time I would visit or hang out with them, this her daughter was always basically playing school. That was her favorite thing to do all the time." And this is before she started school. So she had never been to school, didn't know anything about school structure. But she would set her room up like a classroom. She would set her toys and dolls and teddy bears and um, and chairs and stuff in her room. She would set it all up just like a little classroom. She'd have books and stuff placed, like at a desk, and she would write tests for them and curriculum and stuff like that. And this is stuff that she, like again said, she wasn't old enough to uh, be exposed to yet. But she took it very seriously. It was a big deal. But sometimes, you watch her play, and she would literally just, talk to the toys or the stuffed animals, like they were students or whatnot. Had assigned seats. It was pretty incredible. Um, but the thing that I found fascinating about it is when you'd be around her sometimes, hanging out, she would see certain things or hear certain people talking about things, and she'd have an answer for the question, and it would always kind of throw us for a loop because it's like, how does she know that? How does she know the answer for that? Um, Especially if it was a educational related question, like um, science or something like that. And I think I remember it was specifically a question that um, came either across the TV or something on a show, and it had something to do with the reproductive system. And this little girl answered the question using the proper terminology. This is a kid that didn't know how to read or spell or anything yet, but she answered the question before the person on the show answered the question, and she used the exact terminology. It was like some big long word. I don't even remember what it was exactly, but she said it exactly right. And man, that just floored me. I was like, how does she know that? And my mother's like, I don't know. She knows stuff that I don't even know. So again, I don't know if that, if just some good luck or happenstance or whatever. But when I was reading this article, that came to mind, and that's just something I found fascinating, you know. And then, she's much older now. I think she's about probably like 11 or 12 years old now. And when I see her from time to time, she actually remembers that time period, and she still says to this day, like if you ask her, she'll straight up tell you, like, well, yeah, I was a teacher before. It's real nonchalant for her or whatnot. Um, Even though she doesn't really talk about it per se, but if you ask her about it, she'll just straight up say it nonchalant, like it's a matter of fact. But um, again, that's something I just found fascinating, in my own experiences, that seeing that firsthand. So, and I don't know if any of you out there have had those experiences, or if you know someone else that has, or if you witnessed it or whatnot, or maybe some of your children have, or maybe you had when you were a child. Um, I find those kind of things interesting. So please, get time, reach out, shoot me a message, or leave it in the comments, and feel free, if you feel comfortable sharing it, obviously. Reach out. And if there's something that you want to reach out to me directly, look for the email link and send it to me or whatnot. And if you want it to remain confidential, that's no problem. I'll do that. But I just like hearing those stories from other people around the world who've experienced those things. So please feel free to reach out about that. I would definitely appreciate it. All right, let's move on to deja vu. I'm pretty sure that most of you out there at some point in your life have probably experienced deja vu. That is probably the most common feeling many of us share. That feeling of, you know, you've been somewhere before, you know, or experienced something before. Deja vu, the eerie feeling that you've been somewhere or experienced something before, is one of the most, it's extremely common, yet still a mysterious phenomena. Um, some researchers believe deja vu could be a neurological hiccup, because the brain processes a current experience as though it's a memory, creating that familiar sensation. But, others, we think there's probably more to it. Could deja vu be a glimpse of a past life memory resurfacing? Some theories suggest that when we encounter places or situations that align with a previous existence, the soul remembers, even if the conscious mind doesn't. You know, this actually reminds me of um, an experience that I had once that I'll share with you. Um, Years ago, I was looking for a military base. I was in the military at the time, and I was trying to find a specific base. And I was driving down the road. Everything was normal at first. I was, had gone through um, some different turns and down some different streets, and the road was normal. There were streets, there were restaurants, um, buildings, and everything as I'm driving. But as I continued going, the the road suddenly turned, or I should say, the street suddenly turned more into woods. Right, suddenly it went from houses and buildings and street lamps and lights to all of a sudden it just, like, the road just changed as I was driving, and I felt like I'd been driving forever. And then, you know, everything got darker. And now, mind you, when I was driving, this was probably like maybe 4 in the afternoon, and it was, fairly light out. It was a little overcast, but it was enough light for, it to be daylight. And as I'm driving down this road, because again, I had gotten lost. I'm not gonna lie, I was lost, and I didn't have, GPS at that time. Like I said, this was years ago, and so I'm driving down the road, and everything starts to get dark, like, really fast. And all the buildings are gone. It's just, there's no almost like, it's like the street lights even started, vanished, and all I could see was my car headlights, which I had to flip on. And as I'm driving down the road, there's nothing but forest and trees now. It's getting darker and darker rapidly, and I could not for the life of me shake this feeling that I had been there before, and I couldn't shake this ominous feeling that something was screaming at me to stop, uh, turn around, leave. This area is dangerous, etc. Like, everything in me was screaming at. It's like my man, the hairs on my arm and neck are standing up just talking about it. But I couldn't shake that feeling, and the further I kept going, thinking that, okay, maybe the base is just down here in this area, it wasn't, in my experience, it was kind of common for bases to be kind of off grid. Some weren't, but some were. It wasn't unusual. And I got to a point where I just couldn't handle it anymore. My anxiety was going through the roof, and that's not normal for me. I'm not that type of person at all. To get that way. That was one of the rare times that I felt that way. And eventually I said, you know what? I got to turn around. I just feel like if I keep going, I'm literally going to die. Like something was screaming at me that, like, I couldn't shake the feeling I'd been there before and that something bad had happened when I was there last. So I literally did a U-turn and started driving straight back where I was coming from. And I kid you not, I'd been driving down that road probably maybe about 10 minutes straight into all that darkness. And then when I turned around, maybe it was just my own mind or whatnot, not quite gauging time properly. But all I know is when I turned around and started driving back, within minutes, it was suddenly like everything was bright again, and there were restaurants and everything, like the forest was gone. It was the craziest thing. It has stuck with me to this day. And I've actually never been back to that area ever again. I don't go down there. Anytime I've been in that city, in that area, even when I was out the military and happened to be back in that area, I won't go down there. I won't do it. Don't care. Nope. No reasons. I don't care what's down there. And from my understanding, that area is now built up and there's like all kinds of houses down there, and it's not, or whatever, but you won't get me to go down there. So, but that's one of my, experiences with deja vu. And please reach out if you've had any of those kind of experiences, those moments that, your gut is just screaming at you, and, you just can't shake the feeling like, you've done this before, and you know how this story ends, and you do an about face, and turn around and you just got to get out of there. Your anxiety goes through the roof, or, your hair on your arms or something stand up, or you just hear that inner voice just telling you something, and I'm one of those people. I listen to my gut. And I say this to other people all the time. If you feel something in your heart or in your gut, or it's a voice yelling at you, listen to it. Don't ignore it. If you feel something saying don't go down this street or walk into that building, you know what? It's not that serious. Turn around, get in your car, or turn around and go somewhere else or whatever. Change your plans for that day. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen to your own intuition. I always think it's very important to listen to yourself. Your body knows certain things, and you just listen to it. In most cases, your gut usually turns out to be right about things. I mean, think about how many times that you didn't listen to that voice. I've got plenty of those times that I knew I shouldn't have, or something I shouldn't have done or said or whatnot. And before I said or did it, there was something screaming, telling me, don't do that. But I did it anyway. And then afterwards, I'm going, man, I should have listened to myself. And I'm sure many of you out there have experienced the same thing. So listen to that voice, listen to those feelings and those emotions, and take heed. It might make or break your day, so to speak. Now, deja vu has become a very common thing. People use it all the time, talk about it all the time. And I don't know how many times I've run into people on a daily basis that we could be in the middle of a conversation and they'll kind of make that motion like, ooh, you feel that cold breeze, or, oh man, deja vu, they kind of get the chills or something like that. Some people say it feels like somebody walked over my grave or whatever. That's become so common that I mean, it's made it into, much of pop culture. I mean, you see it everywhere. Um, and pop culture has embraced this idea in films, like The Matrix. You'll probably hear me talk about that a lot. I'm a big fan of the Matrix series, by the way. So um, just know that. Not so much the very last one, but I don't want to get into that debate. But the original trilogy was pretty good in my opinion. But that's just me. But I like the Matrix. But in the Matrix, deja vu is explained as a glitch in a simulation. The idea that it's a momentary slip in our reality or a sign of overlapping lifetimes, um, which is both thrilling, exciting, and unnerving at the same time. But I often think about that sometimes, where not you have all these scientists talking about simulation theory and that we all could be living in a simulation, and then um, when I saw articles and read papers on scientists studying this and looking at it seriously, and at the same time presenting evidence that circumstantial, of course, but evidence that makes you think, like, maybe there is more to this than what we might think. And then my mind would go back to those scenes and that idea in the Matrix and go, if we are living in a simulation, it would make sense that from time to time there would be glitches, or let's say updates, or again something that would present itself like deja vu. Something to think about. Probably just made it hard for some of you to sleep tonight, but something to think about. Now, while reincarnation might seem like a fringe topic, several researchers have spent decades studying it. Another one is Dr. Ian Stevenson's groundbreaking work. Dr. Stevenson's, he's a psychiatrist, also at the University of Virginia, and is considered the pioneer of scientific reincarnation studies. He investigated 2,500 cases of children who claimed to remember past lives. And his methods and approach involved verifying the details provided by these children, names, places, events, etc. And that's kind of been the model ever since. And like we discussed before, Jim Tucker kind of took over after Stevenson retired or whatnot, and kind of carried on his work. But Tucker wrote a book called Life Before Life, where he discusses those cases. I urge you to go check that out. Where he where children recall extraordinary details about the past, and he kind of puts that all out there in really good detail. But the book is called Life Before Life, by Dr. Jim Tucker. I would go check it out if this topic interests you at all. Now, from a scientific perspective, quantum physics has opened the door to discussions about consciousness, as a fundamental part of the universe. Theories like biocentrism suggest that life and consciousness create the universe itself, not the other way around. Now, Could reincarnation be part of this process? Something to think about. Now, some researchers suggest that quantum physics might offer insights into the nature of consciousness and its uh, potential independence from the physical brain. They point to the observation that the act of observation can influence quantum phenomena, suggesting that consciousness may play a more active role in shaping reality than traditionally believed. This could potentially support the idea of consciousness persisting beyond the physical body and possibly transferring to another. I'm not sure if some of you have heard the concept or ideal of you know, manifestation through visualization, you know. But this sort of falls in line with that when you think about how physics is looking at the brain and consciousness. You know, if your thoughts can, affect the world around you, then something like, visualizing, you being successful at business, or, visualizing, yourself, being wealthy and things like that, affect the world around you, and bring those things into being, you know. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us wish we had a superpower where we could just visualize certain things and boom, there it is. But, some of this quantum physics research actually is beginning to support that idea of your thoughts and your emotions actually affecting the world around you. That's something to think about. If you are having, a bad day, or if it's a day that you're just, all in negativity, and it seems like, I know I used to hear this all the time: bad things come in threes and all that sort of thing, sort of stuff. And if you go out and you're spending the entire time being negative or upset or angry, you notice on those days it seems like everything that can go wrong goes wrong that day, and everything that can piss you off pisses you off that day. What if it's just simply all those things are going awry, not because it's happenstance, but maybe your own emotions and your consciousness are making it happen. It's bringing all those bad things to you because, all you're thinking is bad, and I've seen it the opposite where, you're having a great day, everything's going good, and, you're having a positive day, and it almost seems like on those days, people in general are just nicer, when you go out and stuff like that. At least that's what I've experienced when I've had those days where I'm, feeling good, and, you're just having a great day or whatnot. And a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive thoughts. I've gone places and it seems like people are kind of attracted to you, so to speak. Not trying to say just, because I'm attractive or something like that, or I'm special, but in general, they just seem like they're attracted to you on those days without me saying anything to anybody. I'll get more smiles, or I'll get more people speaking to me saying how you doing or whatnot. And I don't even know these people. This is just like me randomly walking around in a grocery store, where in most cases when you walk around a grocery store, people ignore you. They put their head down, they look to the side, whatever, because that's just, kind of how our society is built now, where we don't really interact with each other like that. But I notice on those days when I'm more uh, positive like that, um, and even when I don't speak to anybody, they'll speak to someone, they'll speak to me, and say hi or smile, and then and it'll catch me off guard sometimes because I'm not entirely used to that now. That's just not the world we live in. And I'll smile back or say hi or whatever, but it just hits me like, man, I'm in a good mood, and this person uh, just spoke to me. And sometimes I wonder if that's because my energy is, or my consciousness in that good mood is, resonating beyond my body and affecting the people around me or whatnot. Um, if that's a thing, that's pretty amazing actually. If that's something that we can do as people, just imagine being able to just walk into a room, and because your energy is positive, you make everybody else feel better. That's, to me, that's a pretty awesome thing. So um, and I found that I find myself trying to be more positive, and less negative for that reason. Because me personally, I do, after my own experiences, believe that um, you can absolutely affect the people around you by the way you think and feel. You know, um, when I was in the military, we trained to deal with um, tough situations and whatnot, um, and conflicts, and things of that nature. And there was many times, we were also taught to ways to de-escalate, you know, and in a way, being positive in many cases is a way to de-escalate a negative situation, and I've done it many times in my career when I worked in those types of fields, where a situation that could have easily turned bad or explosive or turned into a shootout or whatever, and because I chose to not add to the situation because those individuals were angry or upset or wanting to do something violent, you know, could I have easily chose violence myself and it would have been all, within my job scope or, legal, so to speak? Yeah, absolutely. But instead, I chose to go the route of being more positive and trying to talk the situation down, which led to, in many cases, the situation being handled without violence or loss of life. And that's always, in my opinion, a good thing. Last resort should be that. But at the same time, if it has to be, it has to be. You do what you got to do. But if you can avoid it, try to avoid it. But I found that being positive in those extremely negative situations tends to sometimes work. It sometimes work, you know. And I've been in some pretty hairy situations and some pretty adrenaline pumping situations, and just simply being positive just happened to work that time, So I don't know who that's for, but something to think about next time you find yourself in that make or break moment where you can choose violence or choose peace, and keep yourself from getting injured or someone else from getting injured, or keeping yourself out of jail, etc. Just think about that next time. But that's just from my own experiences. Um, but moving on, there's studies of near-death experiences have raised questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical body. Some individuals report vivid experiences of leaving their bodies and observing events from a detached perspective. You know, even after clinical death. These experiences suggest that consciousness, it might not be solely dependent on the brain and could potentially exist, independently. The Monroe Institute, a research organization focusing on human consciousness, explored the gateway experience. And if some of you who don't know what the gateway experience, I'll just say briefly, it's something that the CIA developed, that they used for trying to invoke, out of body experiences or seeing things that, from a distance, like remote viewing and stuff like that. It's actually pretty interesting because it's the study or the research that the CIA did on that has been declassified, and you can literally go and download it and read it or whatnot. I've read some of it, not all of it, but it's actually pretty fascinating. And the fact that it's been declassified and the things they say in it is, you get the opportunity to read it, it'll definitely send you down a rabbit hole. But at the same time, with the understanding that this was something they actually did and put money toward, and made some pretty profound discoveries related to it. But the Monroe Institute looked into the gateway experience as a training system aimed at altering consciousness and potentially moving it outside the physical mind. Their research suggested that consciousness might be able to transcend the limitations of space and time, potentially supporting the concept of, reincarnation and things of that nature. And again, like I said, remote viewing, which some of you may be familiar with that, that's being able to use your mind to look out into space and time and perceive things, regardless of where you are physically. And in my own experiences, some people may not believe in remote viewing, but I've experienced enough in my life that I actually do believe there's something to it. I don't think it's just nothing, or like a like a guy that I follow, Dick Algier. He's one of the top remote viewers in the world, and he always says, he calls it woo woo. But I lean towards some of those things that are woo woo, not everything, but definitely in the world of remote viewing, I do believe there's something to it. I don't think it's just completely nothing at all. But yeah, I urge you to go look into those things. Google it, search it. There's tons of YouTube videos. Check out the gateway experience or whatnot. But I think that's where I am going to wrap this up for tonight. Again, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Keep an open mind, and please hit the like and subscribe. Show your support. You are appreciated. Thank you so much again. I had a lot of fun having the opportunity to do this, and join me on the next one. You are listening to the Thinktankden After Dark podcast.